Just bugging.
Came over here earlier and all the water was out of the cylinders, so I went ahead and did a compression test. Turned out pretty good. We got like number 1 cylinder is 120, number 2 is 125, number 3 is 125, and like 135 on 4. And now I'm installing the plugs. I've got 2 in right now. I want to hear this baby run. Starting to wonder how old the fuel is in it. I guess I'm going to find out. There's one plug. And that makes number 3 because I already had 2 in. Alright. Last plug in. She runs. Alright, that's awesome. Alright. It's time to, I'm going to take a little spin around the front of the yard and then back it up in here, and I'm going to pull the motor out. Disassemble it all the way down to the casing. Refreshing everything if I don't find anything major, which I don't expect to. Everything passed on the compression test from 120 to 135. I'm sure that's going to improve after a valve adjustment. And I'm going to detail everything out. Get rid of this awful air filter housing. Put a oil bath air filter housing on it. Paint it up orange. Alright, well, let's crank her up. See what she's going to do here. Not a bad bug, just needs a lot of TLC, but got a lot of potential. Well, that's stuck. Well, listen to that. The seatbelt buzzer works. Imagine that. Annoying, but it surprisingly works. If I put my seatbelt on, it should go off. It goes in reverse. Kind of stalled out. So much for the time-lapse video. Technical difficulty. I pushed start, put the power on, push start, and everything beeped, and then I went to pull the motor. I come back, turn it off, and it was already off. So you didn't miss much. There was a lot of different bolts on it. Actually, this side, you know, they're all 17 millimeter. This side, look, it's got some round stock, threaded a bolt in there, a stud, and it was a 9/16 nut. Go figure. So I gotta get some stuff back on this right. Alright, well, it's gonna all get taken apart, but it don't look like it's bad. It's got plenty of life back in it, but I'm gonna put a dial indicator on and see what the in play is. So, and I'm not having a just bugging good day because of what I just found. Now, I was underneath the car and I pulled the motor, and when I got over to this bolt right there, I noticed right off the bat, like, wow, that's a smaller nut. It should be 17 millimeter. I had to go get a 9/16 wrench because it was 9/16. And I looked at the end of it. This is not good. And it's all thread. It's a stock of all thread. And that's the yellow paint on the end of it, you know, where you see Ace Hardware or something, and yellow stands for 3/8, orange for red stands for 1/2 inch. This is all thread, and you see what I'm showing you right there. Yes, unfortunately, it's JB Weld. This is really disappointing. And let me get down here. As you can see, the whole casing is broke off right there. And someone, see all the JB Weld on the ground? See it? It all broke off. It's not good at all. It's really, I mean, there's really no way of fixing that. It's like the casing shot. I may be wrong, but oh boy. Yeah, there's nothing you can do there. I mean, you could try to secure it somewhere in there and then bolt it to the car and try to enjoy the most out of the motor until it falls out, I guess. I don't know, I haven't seen that yet. I'm sure it happens all the time, but I mean, I haven't run across it yet. Anybody with any suggestions? I mean, as far as I'm concerned, it's screwed. Alright. Today, I've got the motor that we pulled out of the 74 Super Beetle, the one with no start issue. Turned out to be hydrostatic lock because water got in through the carburetor and into the number 1 and 3 cylinders. I found an additional serious problem. Let me get my light. Not much that you can really do to repair this correctly, but when I was pulling the motor, you see this stud here with the 17 millimeter nut on it, which you can tell that's not the correct nut, but hey, at least it was a 17 millimeter and it is the correct stud. Well, I found this for the other bottom bolt. As you can see, we've got some JB Weld and we have some all thread. See the little yellow dot? Yeah, seen it when I bought some at Ace Hardware, you know, like 10, 24 inch, 12, 24 inches long, and you cut the fit. Well, somebody JB welded this. I don't know if you can see it right there, busted completely out. Somebody JB welded that in. Now I know that you can't do much about that, but other than I am lucky that I have a very, very experienced welder for a neighbor, and he's like 70 years old, and he started learning to weld, believe it or not, at 6 years old, and he pretty much wrote the test to get certified for welding. I mean, I'm serious. He was a nuclear inspector, worked for Boeing for many years, spent a lot of time in the Middle East. This guy knows his trade skill of welding. He's going to weld a stud up in that area in the correct placement and everything, somehow, out of my realm. But of course, it's never going to be able to put on a stand again, of course. Once it's mounted into the tranny with this lip on it and everything, I mean, most of the weight is supported by the top bolts. But of course, they're very important on the bottom too. But this individual that owns this car, you know, this motor has a lot of life in it. Of course, somebody sold it to him with this repair on the, you know, this shoddy repair done to it, and he was unaware of it. But he does want to get the use out of the motor, and of course, the only way to correct it is to actually replace the other side of the casing, which, you know, it's not realistic right now. And he's trying to get, you know, use out of the car and enjoy it, and then deal with that some other time when the motor needs rebuilt. Just trash that side of the casing. I guess what else can you do? But so we're gonna make a repair as best we can and mount it back in the car. So I'm stuck down on my knees disassembling this motor. But you gotta do what you gotta do, and we will repair it accordingly to what the owner wants. So I think my first thing, I mean, it looks to me like some kids really worked on this. Well, I can take that exhaust bolt nut off with my hand. Wow. Yeah, it looks to me like some kids own this, and just kind of put it together to run, and didn't know what they're doing. I mean, look, the heat riser, looks like the heat riser tube on the bottom of the intake has been cut off. Gasoline's still in there. And of course the where it's on the exhaust has been welded shut. So I would actually put the heat riser back on it myself. I like it for easier to start in the winter, but it's not a big issue down here. I didn't have heat risers on my 78 convertible, and I didn't really have any problems. It doesn't get that cold, and if it does, it doesn't stay cold for very long down here. Alright, well, I got this so-called exhaust all loosened up. As you can see, there's absolutely no clamps here, so I'm sure this thing had a lot of exhaust leaks. Not much effort to take it off, and the J-pipe's just falling off. Look at that makeshift tip there. Fancy, isn't it? Yeah, he definitely needs to get a new exhaust. We use these J-pipes. Just get a new muffler, and yeah, I'm gonna use these, clean them up, get that crappy wrap off of it. Yeah, I'm curious what else I'm gonna run into, but we can make it usable. Why not? Let's see here. Lovely, I just noticed another thing. There's absolutely no bolt there for the squirrel cage, what I call it. And no bolt there. Yeah, this is, like I said, looks like some kids worked on this. Well, I got the distributor out. Got to get the fuel pump off and the carburetor, and I noticed the coil for the wire for the choke was pinched underneath this, and look at it, it all burned up right there. It's all fried. Huh. Yeah, not surprising. Alright, well, I took the fuel pump off, and I found something I don't really like. When I pulled this out, of course we got water in the motor before. I didn't see any milkiness in it before it ran, but now, of course, everything's milky. But it didn't run for long. And of course, I didn't do anything but turn it around in the yard. It'll be fine. But still more signs that kids were here. Or somebody that didn't know what they were doing. Of course, it wasn't the owner, it's somebody prior. Of course, these gaskets are a mess. But, you know, I've heard that, you know, your fuel pressure is like around, I guess, 4 psi or so on these. I might be wrong. It's been a while since I looked at it. But it's very low. And what I've heard is usually they stack, or, you know, gaskets to reduce the the fuel pressure. You know, and sometimes you're too high, you add another gasket and then you're fine. Or I've heard that people will grind down the rod, but very carefully, and polish it. And look at that. I don't know if you can see that, but that's not carefully and polished, and I normally never have had to do that. I've just, like I said, added or subtracted a gasket on it. It's a little worn on this side too. May want to get another one of these. It ran, but of course I didn't drive it. I wonder what it does if you really need some fuel delivery, like RPMs and cruising down the road, third, fourth gear. Well, I'll look into that. But you can see I got more off of it. Like I said, the squirrel cage wasn't even secured down. The only thing that secured it was the strap for the alternator. Well, stand corrected. I was just about to say there was not any washers on anything. There was not washers on the nuts for the exhaust, for the intake, for the fuel pump, for the carburetor. But I was going to say nowhere, but I do see there's washers here for the oil fill tower. And then this aftermarket doohickey, you can see down in here it's got like a spanner type. I can't remember what you call that socket, but I use them on very big, large things in heavy truck industry. But which you could at least make a fork or make a special tool and tighten that down. But I'll deal with that. Other than that, I'm about to ready to get the nuts off for this. Let's see if I can get this bad boy off. The tower's going to come off before it. But you'd think one of these boots would give. So loosen. Alright, well anyways, I got to get the tower off. So, and then get the other tins off. And I'm thinking about turning it over back to number 1 position and start. I can tell where the valves are going to be, but I'm kind of just curious what the valve adjustment is before I go to pulling the rods, and because I'm going to be replacing the push rod tubes with adjustables, so I can go ahead and replace the grommets. So basically I'm going to freshen it up with all the external gaskets, and everything, other than I'm not going to deal with the casing. I'm going to put a dial indicator on it, but it is a tight motor. See if I can. I can't feel it. I don't need to put it's moving around too much. But I'll eventually put a dial indicator on it and kind of see what I'm getting here. Another sign of a novice RTV on the intake gaskets. Yeah, that works really well. Dirty, dingy motor with lots of 10 screws missing, lots of washers missing. Other than that, explore a little bit more.
Hey guys, hope you guys enjoyed the video and the new intro made by a friend of mine named Jason, link down below. Subscribe, like, and comment for more Just Buggin' videos, and have a Just Buggin' of a day.